Sometime during Excel 2010's reign, Microsoft introduced the Power Pivot add-in. This add-in added significant data handling capabilities which have matured and grown significantly with Excel 2016. A nominal version of this Excel data model has been built into standard Excel, with enhanced features becoming available as part of the professional installation. Many of these features were standard to the add-in for all users with Excel 2010 and even non-subscription 2013 installations. However, this has changed with Office 365. For this course, I will avoid using any of the enhanced features, which are described as the Excel Self-Service Business Intelligence package within the higher-tier business subscriptions. These relationships will define how data works together and can be used to eliminate large sections of VLOOKUP or index match searches. We'll be using them to construct our invoice setup from scratch, so let's go to the Data tab on the ribbon and select Relationships to open a new window. The Excel data model can handle one-to-one and one-to-many relationships and generate the appropriate lookup results using Power Pivot and Power View. Where the data model fails is with many-to-many relationships, which makes them fairly important to understand from the last lesson. If I were to go back to our fruits example, I would need to use some workarounds to get my many-to-many relationships to work, and those workarounds would require the extended business intelligence features that are not present in most Excel installations, so our course will avoid those. The way the data model works is we can take data tables and identify a primary key relationship to a foreign key. The primary key will be located in our original table, so that would be the ID field within each of our tables. The foreign key will be its location within an alternative table where the relationship exists. For example, in this client list table, the ID field is a primary key. This table contains no foreign keys as it is only referenced by other tables. The referrals table will contain a foreign key for the client list that refers back to the client list ID. Now, defining these relationships is pretty easy. I can press the new key, and I get a small window with 4 drop-down options. The left 2 options list each of the tables that is accessible to this Excel data model. These can be data tables that you've created in Excel, or tables that you've linked from other data sources. For this course, I'm going to use strictly tables that we've defined within Excel. This top entry represents the foreign table, while the bottom row will represent the primary table. Let's start with the top table, and I'm going to select the line items table. Once I've selected the line items table, I can select the column drop-down and see each of the columns that are available within the table. For this, I'm going to select the product ID since we want to relate the line item table to our products table. Now, we need to select the corresponding table for our relationship, which is going to be the products table. Within the products table, we want the field that represents the ID here, and again, this will be the product ID. This defines our relationship between the line items and products table. Once I press OK, the Excel data model will load and update, and my relationships window will reappear with an active relationship between my line items and products table. This might not make sense quite yet, so let's go and restate it as a lookup. The whole goal for this relationship is to be able to reference the product information from the line item information. So within the line item table, how would I want to pull over the product name if I were using VLOOKUP? Well, I would write the formula equals VLOOKUP, and my lookup value would be the product ID, and my table array would be the products table. This effectively states a relationship where the product ID is our foreign key and the products table first column is our primary key. In other words, the first column is what gets searched, and the foreign key tells you how to find the information you need from the primary key. After that, I simply need to specify which field I want to pull over, and I have access to all of them in that array. So for the product description, I can simply enter 2, false for our VLOOKUP, and I now have a single column that creates part of the relationship that we've just defined. I say part because the major difference between our VLOOKUP and our relationship is that our relationship defines a more general grouping between the 2 tables, such that Excel will now expect each of the matches from the product ID field to relate to all of the values from the products table that match it. Here we've pulled one value, but the relationship specifies that all of them should be made available. And so in that way, the products table becomes connected to the line item table through the product ID relationship. As long as relationships remain in the background, they'll probably continue to be a little confusing, and since we aren't doing anything with them. So let's go ahead and walk through the creation of one more relationship. This time I'm going to relate the referrals table to the referral details table. I'm going to go back to my data tab, and I'm going to go to my relationships, and I'm going to create a new relationship. So let's think about this relationship. My referral details table contains the definition of each referral type, while my referrals uses the referral details to tell you what kind of referral it was. That means that the referral details key within our referrals table is the foreign key. So my first table will be the referrals table. Now my foreign key column is going to be the referral code, since I didn't actually name it as referral detail ID, which I should have done. Now our related table is going to be the referral details table, as that's where we want to pull the information from, with the related column being our ID field. Once I press OK, the Excel data model updates yet again, and I now have another relationship included within my workbook. It will be another 2 lessons before we see any tangible benefits from this, but we're constructing a framework so that Excel will allow us to create an invoice template that is much more durable and flexible than our current formulaic approach. Along with this lesson is exercise 6. For this exercise, I've constructed a small data set and provided it as a flat file. Your exercise is to normalize this data, organize the normalized data into Excel data tables, and then define the relationships. Not only should you define the relationships using Excel's tool, you should write down and identify what type of database relationships each one creates. This exercise will cover these first 3 lessons for this chapter. You'll need to evaluate the data, break it down into its components, turn the broken down components into data tables, and then define the relationships for the tables within the Excel data model. As we build out the invoice template, the following exercises will build from this exercise to duplicate and reinforce what we cover. In our next lesson, I'm going to introduce sliders and discuss how they can be particularly useful for user-guided inputs.